Right, we're here at a wonderful Patshull Park fishery. Fallen in love with this place over the last few years, and every time I come it just seems to deliver so many different styles of fishing. It's lovely. Come today for try and catch some skimmers and some bream. Been fishing quite a while actually. It's not been easy today because we've had no wind and it's high pressure's just come in, but I've had a few fish and a few bites now, and I think I've just hooked into my first bream. I've got an odd liner and it's gone round, that lovely feeling, you know, it goes straight round. Beautiful. Can't beat a bream braid bite. Yeah, it feels like a decent fish. Some big fish in here. I fished a match here recently. I was second. Had 13 bream for £50, but the winner had 12 for £60. So that's a good stamp of fish, really is. And this is a nice fish. He's coming in now. Taking my time with him because he's basically the first proper fish I've had this. We've had to be very patient today. But Patshull's one of those places. It's only really just opened all year round. It was a trout fishery in spring, and so this spring has been the first time they've actually fished matches and pleasure fish course fishing. So it's interesting to see how it's fishing, and it's starting to wake up, and that's a lovely fish. They look like they're a bit in spawning mode, to be honest. There, he's got a few marks on him and scabs, but you can see these fish in here. They are big old fish, aren't they? Look at that. Absolute beauty on my good old favourite double red worm. Just seems to deliver big fish, little baits. Bream love that. Fantastic. Let's get him back in and see if we can catch some more. The rig's fairly straightforward. I'm basically I set two rods up and a feeding rod, but the actual feeder rig I'm using on both is identical. I'm not having to fish too far out, so I always go for what I class as my twizzle loop rig. It's a free running rig, a really good rig. I'll show you exactly how I tie it now. It's a fantastic rig, this. It's so versatile. It's a little bit fiddly to tie, but it is just one of the most reliable things that I use all the time. I use it on the rivers, I use it on the lakes, I use it for bream and skimmers and everything. It's a free running rig, and that's what is important about it, but there's just one little twist in it that I'll show you when I've finished it, and it's great. It's quite easy. All you need are two elements. There you go, that's it. You need some micro beads, glass beads. Plastic beads are no good because they end up actually splitting or just wearing through. American snap swivels and micro beads. That's all you need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly what I do with this rig. I go basically put the American snap swivel on the line, and that just runs up the line. I'm not fixing it at all. I'm doing nothing with it at the moment. Then I'll put the bead on the line. The bead goes on, that's up the line, and those two literally just stay out of the way for the moment. Well, what I want to do now is create a twisted boom, and this is the way I do it. I just twist the line, make a bit of a boom like that. Once that's made, you can see that's nice and straight, stiffens everything up, and I put at the base of that a double overhand knot. And what I'll do is pull that tight and that's the stage 1 of the twisted loop process complete. Then what I'll do, take the bead and move it down to that knot, and then I'll just go through the same process again, and I'm actually trapping the bead within that twisted boom. That bead is going to be my feeder stop for my swivel. And then what I do, about 4 inches about perfect. It doesn't need to be too long, but it needs to be just long enough for the feeder to be able to move about. Then, very important, just a 1 overhand knot. Pull it tight, trim it off very close to the knot, and then what you've got, when I can get to the swivel, what you've got there is a little tiny boom. Put the feeder on it and I'll show you exactly what it does. It acts as a lovely little kicker boom. You can see there, look, it's already kicking off. So get some feeder, some ground bait in it, and suddenly you've got something that kicks off. The way the hook length is attached is a simple loop to loop, and that just goes through loop to loop as standard as you would put on most hook lengths these days. But again, acts as a great boom. Look at, you can see it kicking off, and when you put ground bait in, it's even greater. And that for me is the most simple thing. But as you can see there, look, that when you've got a fish on, when a fish takes a bait, it pulls it, and there's a tiny little knot there, just fish will hook itself in that knot, but you've got a free running system there. So if you get a big fish on, the big fish is not bouncing the feeder about, the feeder's running freely up the line. It's such a reliable method. I use it for pretty much everywhere I can. No wind, flat calm, it's gone quite still, but it's suddenly come overcast. And I've had like a couple of liners in last 3-4 chucks, like I thought were going to develop into bites, and then nothing. And I was just thinking it was never going to happen, and all of a sudden the tip's gone round. Good old faithful red worm, 2 red worms, and it looks like it's a decent sized skimmer. Yeah, it is. But I've just been, I put that initial amount of bait in because I've not had many signs up until the last 20 minutes. I didn't want to put too much in, so all I've been doing is just putting a regular cast, like, you know, that was like 7 minutes something, and I've just kept putting it in and putting it in, and eventually it's gone round. Let's hope it'll start to go around a bit more now. I've got a boatload of bait on my bait waiter, as you can see, loads of stuff, but in all honesty, it's very rare I'm going to use all this kind of bait. The main foundation of my feeding is my ground bait. The ground bait I'm using today is a very straightforward mix, but it's quite a potent mix. It's mainline marine, 70% mainline sweet marine, which is a heavily halibut fish meal mix. It's got a little bit of sweetness in it, but what I've done, and I tend to do this time of year, is I actually sieve it off so it's much finer, and it just keeps the fish in the peg without feeding them. And what I like to do is I use this as my base attractor, but then what I'll do is I'll just add a few particles at a time. I'll put stuff out at the start. You know, I'll put quite a bit of casters, a little bit of chopped worm, some dead maggots and some dead pinkies, and if I think I'm fishing for bream, then I'll put a few micros out, but not many. You know, I'll just put like a smattering of them in there. And what the mix does, the mix is the foundation. It holds the fish there. There's the scent, there's the colour on the bottom, which is a relatively dark colour, and it's got some soluble fish meals in it, so there's always some scent in the water. And then you've got a few live particles, and then quite a lot of what I call inert or dead particles, casters and dead red maggots. And often if I'm fishing for skimmers, for example, I will put in my favourite dead fluoro pinkies and put those in, and that is a brilliant bait for dragging fish into and overfeed. Because once you start trickling a few of those in, little feeder, a few of these come off, they fall really slowly, and it's just a case of dragging fish down. I've got dendrobinas that I've chopped up. I've not gone man today, just put a little bit in. And then finally, I've got my redworms. I chop a few of those up now and again if I think that I need to put a little bit of live worm into my feed. Pick the big ones out, chop them a couple of times, and they just put them in my feed every time I go and cast out. So basically, keep my feeders the similar sort of size unless I think I'm putting too much bait in or too little bait. But on here, I'll be expecting to get quite a few bites. I want bait going in through the water all the time. Regular casts are important as far as I'm concerned. I don't like sitting down and waiting for the fish to come to me. There's times when you've got to do that, but I think 5 to 7 minutes casts at this time of year, a little bit of bait's going in, and it just keeps things ticking over. If you want to put live baits in, put them in regularly through the feeder. If you want to put a lot of bait in, put your inert baits in early on in the session, or top up with like big feederfuls, and that'll just top your peg up again. Just about ringing the changes, mixing things up, trying to understand what size fish you're fishing for, and then using the items on your bait weighter that you know is right for the day, not just putting it all in willy-nilly. Just thinking about it and getting it right. Well, that's good news. I've just had one after a long wait. Next chuck in, had a little dink and the tip just wanged round, just the usual whoom. What they call it in the bream world, a 2-foot twitch. And that was lovely. These fish here tend to come together. They don't swim on their own a lot of the time, these fish. In the cold weather, winter, you might get one, but this time of year they tend to be swimming around in shoals. You know, they're thinking about spawning. And once you get a few fish turn up, with a bit of luck, fingers crossed, you might catch a few now. But they seem to have just settled on the feed after quite a long wait, and I was starting to think that I wasn't going to catch any bream. But things are certainly looking up. What I've done is at the start of the session, I fed 5 big feederfuls at 33 metres, and then I fed 3 decent feederfuls, not a lot large, but like a 4 square cage on my 51 metre line, and I started on that line. No signs, nothing. Tried my short line, no signs. And after a couple of hours, just being patient, just trying to ring a few changes. That's another good fish. Trying to ring a few changes, started to get a few bites. I say, when you catch these bream at Patshull Park, they're good fish, aren't they? Beautiful fish. Put him back in there. So with a bit of luck, they've just come onto the feed. I've just chopped a bit more worm up, just to put a little bit of fresh worm in, actually, because sometimes I like to chop it and as we go. I don't like it to be sitting there. It stops wriggling and it loses its appeal. It goes a bit of a funny colour sometimes. Sun was shining hard earlier and it was quite warm. But I'm just putting good old faithful red worms on. I always think with red worms is when you're fishing with a red worm, my view is if you can get a fish to mouth it, it's very rare that fish drops a red worm. Yet with a big piece of Dendrobina, sometimes you can actually have it where they mouth it and drop it, or they just nip a bit off the end and that's it, you don't get another bite. With a red worm, that's right on the money. Hopefully there's another one there waiting for us. With a red worm, they just seem to take it in. So that was in. I've got 3 minutes 50 on my counter there, so that was only in 2 minutes maximum, so that's good news. This is what tends to happen. With a bit of luck, and just get my braid to go underneath all this rubbish that's on the surface, get everything settled, and we'll catch another one. Well, we've had a lovely day today. I really enjoyed it. It's so nice to come to a place like this. We've been sat here listening to cuckoo, woodpeckers, there's buzzards flying about. It's like being on nature watch. It's just beautiful. The scenery is great. It's natural fishing, and it's been hard today, but it's been good. I've had to work really hard to get bites. We had a cold night last night and a scorching warm day today. I've worked at it, I've fed my 2 lines, I've gone in between the 2 lines. I've only caught my fish long, but I've had indications on my shorter line, which has been really frustrating because I've not actually had a pull round on there. So I don't know what's going on there, but it's kept me busy, it's kept me interesting, and that's one of the nice things about Patshull Park. You come here and I'm sat in what is effectively the shallows. It's 10 foot deep out there. You go around the main shallows here. You've got 5, 6, 7 foot deep. You go 300 metres up the lake and you're talking about depths of 15 to 18 feet in places. Then you've got the boat section over the far side where you get a boat trip over and you sit on the pontoons. Sometimes they're in the matches, other times not. But it's just such an exciting and different place. You can come and fish the feeder and have a great day feeder fishing. In summer you catch lots and lots of these little skimmers, and often the bream don't get a look in. If you want to catch the bream, you've got to set your stall out and put a lot of bait in and fish for them with big baits, like corn and stuff like that. That's the sort of bait that will get the fish in your peg, and corn on the hook, and you're sure to catch them. Go further up the lake, you can be fishing short poles, 5 metres, 6 metres to hand in deep water, little ball of chuck or handfuls of casters, and you just catch lots and lots of roach and skimmers, and of course some of the odd bream. It's quite an exciting place, and I'm really looking forward to fishing Patshull again this year. We've got this bit of an extended season here. Hopefully it'll be here to last. We can fish it much longer through the season, and I'm really looking forward to some good days fishing here.